How's it going, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Town of Salem. In this video, we'll be making the annual tier list of all the roles in the game. The rankings will be based on the power level of every role for the coven or any mode, and this is of course based off of my own personal experience. Feel free to leave your own ones below, and without further ado, let's jump right in. Alrighty, so starting off with Ambusher. What do we say about Ambusher? Now, this is an interesting role. In Ranked, it would be considered S tier without a doubt for Marth because the killing power is very, very important. Coven or any mode, not necessarily the case. I would say a very flimsy role, wouldn't really describe it as all that powerful. You get to go on someone who's not Marth, you get to ambush them. If someone walks into them, you'll kill them, and if more than one person goes to that target, everyone gets your name, you'll kill one of them off, and the other person will know exactly who you are. So chances are you're going to get pushed the next day, or there could be a medium in the game, and the person who's dead gives them your name, and then you get upped, you get pushed, you get lynched. I would say that in Coven or any, this role in particular probably goes into like C tier. A pretty average role, and you know, sometimes you can get some cheeky kills with it. The one thing that holds it back is the fact that you cannot ambush your own Marth. And sometimes, that's like the main thing I always wish for when I'm ambusher in a game. I know a Mafia is going to get visited by sometimes a rival faction like Coven. Maybe the Potion Master is going to kill someone in our Marth. And you go, man, I just wish I could ambush him right now, protect them, and take that guy out. So the fact that you can't do that, I would say Ambusher goes right into C tier. Alrighty, up next, we've got the Amnesiac. Now, Amnesiac, honestly, a very interesting role, a very fun role in my opinion. Now, the main problem that Amnesiacs run into is trying to survive during nighttime and trying to avoid getting lynched. Generally, the way I like to play is fake claiming as this role. I normally claim Doc or Veteran and then try to remember an evil role and then just try to go off and win that way. Normally, if you get voted up, especially in the mid-game, and you claim Amni, chances are you're probably going to get lynched. They're not going to believe it, especially if there are townie rolls in the graveyard, because people are going to be like, hang on a minute, why didn't you remember freaking dead medium? And then you'll be like, I don't know, give me one more night. And they'll be like, nah, get out of here. So normally that's what Amnesiacs run into. I would say that surviving at nighttime is also pretty difficult with this role because you do work alone, and if you're being too active in the chat, they might kill you. If you're not being active enough, you could also get murdered. The main saving grace of Amni is that you do kind of get to play the game by your own rules. You can increase your chances of victory by just seeing who's in the graveyard. Maybe there's one Mafia dead, but you know there's still 3 left in the game. And you go, you know, it's about mid to late game. Marth are likely to be winning. How about I just whisper someone who's likely to be Marth, say, don't kill me tonight. I'll just remember consig, and we'll go off and win. Sometimes if you see townies winning, you can remember town, go off and win with them. Other times you could clutch it out, remember neutral killing, arsonist, just burn everyone. But I would say just in general, it probably belongs in B to A tier, probably A tier. Reason being is because you actually have a decent amount of control over your destiny. You can increase your chances of winning the game. So up next on the list, we've got arsonist. Now arsonist without a doubt probably belongs in S+. This should be a plus. So the thing about arsonist is, if you exist in Coven or any, it's actually relatively difficult for people to detect that you're in the game. Now, the only way you get found is if, you know, there's an investigator who's running around and finding people with BGGF ARSO results everywhere, and then saying, holy shit, there's a freaking ARSO. And other than that, maybe you might be found by a trapper, maybe you trigger a trap and they say, hey, an arsonist has triggered this trap, hang on a minute, we gotta find this bastard and kill him. If those two scenarios do not occur, and, you know, you're just dousing people, it's a relatively slow game, you've claimed and people just believe it, evils don't really bother attacking you, you could very, very easily have 5 to 6 people doused by the end of the game, and just hit that ignite button, easily win. If there's 2 arsonists in the game, everyone gets screwed. If there's more than 2, then it's a complete stomp. You will nuke the entire town. I would just say an overall very solid role. If you do get detected, which is relatively difficult, there are more ways than the 2 that I listed. There's always the chance that, you know, a crusader goes on someone, you visit that person, you get attacked, Obviously, crusader doesn't kill you because you have defense. And they go, hang on a minute, this guy was visited but no one died. So there could be an arsonist among us. If you have a solid claim and you do survive, for the most part, you will be winning that game. Up next on the list, we've got blackmailer. Blackmailer, just such a great role. Just a fantastic, great, powerful role. You get to read all the whispers in the game. You get to be one step ahead of all of the competition. You could have jailors, town protects, chaining. You got people coordinating. You've got people asking survivors for help. You got people claiming survivor, admitting their real roles to different factions. All these different things. The information is so valuable that you can honestly just win the game based off of it. Not to mention the fact that you can silence people if the mood strikes you. The only drawback of blackmailer is that you do have no immunity. You are prone to dying. You could go bye-bye randomly, and then you kind of get screwed. So I would say maybe that makes it miss out on S+, but without a doubt an S. The information you get with blackmailer is just too powerful. It's too great. And the funny part is, even if they don't share any valuable info, they're going to be gossiping, and you're going to be laughing the whole way through. Up next on the list, we've got BG. Now, bodyguard is honestly not a very good role in Coven or any. I always say this when I get the role, but chances are, you go on someone, that person gets attacked, you protect them, you die, you take that person down, you feel all great, you feel all, satisfied, you feel like a champion, and then by the end of the game, you find out that you protected the mafioso from the serial killer, and that you were better off just letting him attack that person, and your entire life has gone to waste. In fact, you helped the mafia win as a result of that play. Bodyguard is honestly just not a good role unless there's a confirmed jailer, confirmed mayor, but even then, there could very easily be a crusader in the game who just kills you. There could be a trapper, and you just trigger their trap, and you kind of, the roles don't really have synergy with each other. I would say it's probably an E or an F tier, probably an F tier. Even the claim itself, if you come up with BGGF Arso Cruise results and you claim BG, they're not going to trust you. They're going to think you're arsonist. You're probably going to get lynched. If you claim BG and you get checked by evils, they're going to be like, hey, it's BG, just freaking kill it. You'll get murdered. If you vest that night and a spy says, hey, you were attacked, and you go, I vested, they're not going to believe you. They're going to think you're immune. They're going to think you're arsonist. You are going to die. You will be lynched. Up next on the list, we've got consig. Consig, honestly, again, just a very solid mafia role in Coven or any. You cut through all the bullshit. You cut through all of the misdirection. You get to check someone, and you get to see exactly what they are. The only scenario this kind of gets interrupted is if someone is doused, they will show up as arsonist, but other than that, they're going to show up as their exact role. No greater feeling than checking someone and finding, juggernaut, sometimes medusa, and you realize this person's just hiding, and they're just waiting for their moment to strike. The information they get is normally very valuable. It's going to miss out on S+, and it's going to go in S, because it doesn't have nighttime immunity, and you are prone to dying. If there's a spy in the game, you do kind of get counted, because every single person that you check will be confirmed to be not Marth. So generally, it's a good idea to get the spies out as soon as you can. The information is just great, similar to blackmailer. It's going to help you a lot. With it, you will probably win a lot of games. Up next on the list, we've got the consort. Now, consort, again, if this was a ranked tier list, would be S+, similar to ambusher, because preventing people from using their roles in that list is very, very, very important. However, in Coven or any, there are a lot of hazards in the game. You got serial killers. You could have more than one serial killer. For those who don't know, if you're a consort and you walk into a serial killer, you will instantly die, and your will be bloodied as well, which means no one will know where the hell you went. According to your will, they won't know. I would just say overall, it's not as useful to be role-blocking people if you're a consort, save for some, certain scenarios where maybe you can role-block a jailer, maybe you can role-block a vigilante, maybe you can role-block an arsonist. But, if you're against a serial killer, you're screwed. Werewolf, you're screwed. You could really screw over a juggernaut, but that's because juggernaut sucks. Coven leaders are going to wreck you. You could stop certain Coven roles, but other than that, the real threats you won't be able to stop, and therefore, I would say this role probably goes into, maybe a C or B tier. Arguably either one. So up next on the list, we've got the Coven leader. Now, Coven Leader is actually a very powerful role in Coven or any, and the reason being is because you get to control people, you get to send them wherever you feel like, and you also get what their role is. There is no, if this person is doused, they will show up as arsonist. No, you'll get that person's exact role, and you'll have nighttime immunity. Now, nighttime immunity is not to be understated, and it's because survival is just very important. Survival is pretty much everything. If you get attacked by, a lowly mafioso, they won't be able to stop you. You will be a terror. Overall, I would just say goes into S+. The amount of control and influence you'll have over a game is just insane. If you find a werewolf early, if you're any other role, you want that werewolf lynched as soon as you can. But if you're a Coven leader, you want that werewolf to stay alive because you now have a minion who you can use anytime you like, anytime it's werewolf night, and they can't do anything about it. They have powerful attack and they have rampaging. No one will be able to stop you. So I would say Coven leader, very powerful. If you get this role and you have a full set of Coven as well, chances are you win that game. Very big chance you win that game, especially coupled with Medusa, Potion Master, and Hex Master. So up next on the list, we have Crusader. Crusader, probably the strongest town protect in the game. You can very easily confirm yourself because you can, of course, kill townies with the role. So you can always say, I'm Cruz, I killed the transporter, I am confirmed. The person you defend has powerful defense, which, again, survival in this game is very important. You can chain with other town protects and pretty much become invincible. You counter consorts, which is something that bodyguards, doctors, and trappers cannot do. You're overall very solid. You get to attack every single night. The only area you lack is defending yourself. So if you do manage to get that combo going, you're going to be a very powerful force to be reckoned with. The main problem is survival. If there's not a lot of townies in the actual role list, you're kind of screwed because who the hell are you going to protect and what are you going to do in the late game? So to succeed with this role, you do need other townies in there who are also powerful. So you need vigilantes, you need jailors, you might need a mayor. Therefore, probably cap it at B tier. Maybe not as good as Amni because unlike in Amni, you cannot choose your own destiny. You cannot really increase your chances of winning if you're screwed from the beginning. Whereas Amni can always look at the graveyard and they can always kind of adjust the way they play. Up next on the list, we've got Disguiser. Honestly, Disguiser, I would say a very shit role, probably goes into F. Probably goes into F. If you get tracked as a Disguiser and you do not claim Transporter, which you're probably not, because you would have been caught with your pants down if you've been tracked that way, especially night 1, you'll be completely outed and completely screwed. For those who don't know, Disguiser is one of the 2 roles along with Transporter, which if you do get tracked, you get seen as visiting 2 targets. So you'll immediately be questioned. People say, what is your role? And if you don't have a Transporter will, instantly, with people saying that they've been transported, it is bye-bye for you. The role overall is not very impactful on the game. Sometimes you'll be able to, cheekily manipulate town. You'll get a lookout to maybe push the wrong person. Maybe you can hide one of your mafias from being checked by a sheriff. But it is pretty rare, that person needs to be checked at the very same night that you use your ability. When it gets to the late game and it's no longer about manipulating the town, but it's more so about brute forcing and winning the game just off raw strength, Disguise is not going to be very powerful. If you do get checked by an investigator, you can claim Doctor, which is more of a solid claim than something like Bodyguard, for example, but you just won't be having much of an impact. It's also not a very fun role to play, and maybe even a little too complicated, just in general. So I would just put it in F. So up next on the list, we've got Doctor. Now, Doctor, I would say, is probably better than Bodyguard. Reason being is because with Bodyguard, you protect one person and then you go down. But with Doctor, you do get to stay alive. Sometimes you can, you can heal 3 people, 4 people in a game. And if you've healed those 4 people, honestly, you can clutch out and win. And it would be, all you. But you probably won't get the credit for it because Doctor is more of a supportive role. Now, if you do Town Protect Chain as Doctor, it's very great. You will survive. You will do well. Sometimes you may get pushed as a Potion Master. And, you're still prone to dying to Crusaders who might be going on the same targets you're going on. You could potentially trigger someone's trap and then ruin them. You don't have synergy with trappers. Not as good as Crusader because you don't have the attacking power. Probably just a middle of the pack C tier role. Maybe even D tier if we're being honest. Because if you don't have any townies in the role list, you might just be screwed from the get-go. So up next on the list, we've got escort. Now, escort, unlike the consort, generally shouldn't be lying about what role they are. You know, consorts can always lie and say like, you know, I'm this, I'm that. But escort, you should be claiming that you're escort, especially if you're questioned, unless you're trying to be a little cheeky. Now, the problem with that is once you've claimed escort, you will be getting targeted by pretty much everyone because everyone's scared of you. If you find and role block the godfather or the mafioso, and they're the only killing role in their team, you've effectively destroyed all of their killing power, and they don't want that. If you role block a juggernaut, the juggernaut will not be able to kill. If you role block an arsonist, the arsonist will not be able to ignite. So generally, you get targeted by everyone, but you do have potential to be a strong role. You could solo win a game as Esque. You know, there have been times where I've rolled mafioso and I've just been role blocked from night 1 all the way to the very end, and I just cannot do anything because they've figured out who I am. If you get role blocked at any point and you're a killing role, you're very screwed. Again, you are prone to dying to, you know, werewolves, serial killers, but you do get targeted a lot. I would say probably C tier, maybe D tier. You're just, you know, you do have potential to be very strong, but everyone is really at your throat. I wouldn't say it's stronger than consort, so maybe it does belong in D tier. Consort does have the benefit of being able to just lie. So up next on the list, we've got the executioner. So executioner, honestly a very fun role. You've got the nighttime immunity. So again, survival, very important. It's not like they can just kill you at night and be done with you, unless you get killed by like a werewolf or something like that. If your target dies during the night, you will come back as a jester. You don't win in the normal way. You don't have to survive till the very end. You don't have to outright win. You just have to get your target lynched. And that's not that hard to do in Coven or any. Who's kidding who? Unless your target is a confirmed veteran or a confirmed crusader, you're probably going to win that. Very easy to push them up. People are very lynch happy. A lot of evils, they have the mentality of, you know, just push, just lynch that person. Because if someone else is getting lynched, we aren't getting lynched, and that means that we get to survive one night longer. Executioner, I would just say goes into solid, you know, A, probably even S tier. It more so depends on how much fun you have with the role, in all honesty, because you aren't really competing against anyone else other than really town, and some role lists don't even have that many townies in it. So probably S or S+. You should be ranking this more on your personal taste. I would say S because you get to become jester if your target dies. Maybe even S+. I mean, who's kidding who? Nah, we'll put it in S. We'll put it in S tier. Alrighty, so up next we've got the Forger. Now, the thing about Forger is you can actually be decently powerful on the role list. If you forge someone as a veteran and then someone else claims a veteran, they're going to get lynched. If you forge someone as, you know, maybe a potion master and you give them a fake will that says, you know, I check number 7 and number 7 is werewolf. Everyone might just run up and lynch number 7. Meanwhile, the person who's dead was never even a potion master to begin with. Honestly, a very fun role, especially if you put time into making your will. You don't have that nighttime survivability, and I would not say it's stronger than blackmailer or consig. Gathering information in Coven or any is probably more important than outright manipulation, because lynching people as Muff is not that difficult. Even just as any role, it's not that difficult, because people are generally lynch happy in this mode. Maybe A tier, maybe even B tier, you only do get 2 forges, and sometimes they do go to waste. A lot of the times you attack someone, they're immune, and your forge is just gone. So probably B tier, and it stays in B tier. So up next on the list, we've got the Framer. Now, Framer, without a doubt, F tier, absolute garbage, absolute shit. It's a terrible role, and the reason why I say that is because you really don't do anything other than just visit people. The only time you're effective is if a sheriff checks someone and they've been framed, and then they come up as sus, and then they push that person, and then you kind of do that. Or, you know, likewise with investigator. But other than that, you know, if there's no investigators in the game, you're useless. If there's no sheriffs in the game, you're kind of useless. Sometimes you can fool trackers by claiming maybe a town protect, and you say track me, you visit that person, and you go, see, I visited that person, I'm Doc, I'm bodyguard, whatever. But if there's a spy in the game, you get counted by that, because everywhere you go, that person who you visited will be confirmed as not being Marth. So generally, if you're Framer, you want that spy gone as soon as possible. Other than that, you're kind of like the Disguiser, you're pretty damn shit. I would say F tier, not very effective at all. So up next on the list, we've got the Godfather. Now, Godfather, I would say one of the strongest roles in Coven or any. Reason why I say that is because you do have the nighttime survivability. You will not be murdered by a lowly serial killer or a vigilante or, you know, anything of the sort. You don't have any information gathering skills, but one of the hidden traits about any immune role in CAA is that you can actually be louder in the chat, you can try to lead people more, and they can't outright kill you, you know, unless you get killed by like a werewolf. You can stick your head out there, make a few more riskier plays during the daytime, and kind of get away with it. You try doing that as a consig or a blackmailer, you'd probably die unless you get a town protect on you, and that's never guaranteed. So I would say Godfather probably belongs in S tier. I win with this role very often, and it's just because I get to survive, and unless I'm outright lynched, chances are I do survive and win that game. Dying to a werewolf or a juggernaut, your main objective should be finding those roles as soon as you can, getting them out of there until you are the top dog. Up next on the list, we've got Guardian Angel, and the beauty of it is that, you know, you can claim Guardian Angel day one. Chances are you won't get murdered, but sometimes people do go out of their way to just kill you. I don't know why. I assume it's because people aren't paying attention, or maybe they're a Guardian Angel for someone else. Maybe they've whispered, you know, number 7, and then the Mafia, who's not number 7, decides, hey, I'm just gonna kill that GA. But even then, it's probably a bad idea because you can always kill their target later in the game. You got a confirmed survivor on your hands. You can always, you know, convince that person to side with you. You don't have to tell them you're Marth. You could say, hey, I'm the PM. I'm the potion master. Side with me. Let's get that damn Mafia, you know? So, your success, your win condition is really tied upon the target surviving. So, sometimes you can clutch it out and win the game for them. Other times, it is a complete lost cause. You could be a Guardian Angel for a single townie, and yeah, you protect them twice, but they get attacked the third time and you still lose. But it's not over for the Guardian Angel when that happens. If your target does die, you do essentially become a confirmed survivor, who everyone generally loves, and you'll only be killed by absolute psychopaths. So, generally, you know, Guardian Angel's a very solid role, probably S tier. You do have big impact on the game. Depending on who your target is, you will have a big impact, and your chances of winning are likely high, especially, like, even if your target dies, you're still going to be out there. You're still going to be kicking, so you'll be okay. Guardian Angel probably S tier. So up next on the list, we've got Hexmaster. Now, Hexmaster honestly really depends on how many Coven you have on your team and who those Coven members are. If you have a full set of Coven and, you know, you've got the Coven leader, the Medusa, you've got the Potion Master, Hexmaster is going to be the icing on the cake, which is very strong. Probably, you know, B tier. Probably, yeah, probably B tier. If you're solo, you're pretty shit. Probably E. Getting a Hex Bomb in the game is really freaking cool, and it's also a threat that not a lot of people anticipate. Sometimes it's like, you know, night 4, night 5, you feel like you're doing pretty good, and then boom, everyone's dead, and it's because the Hexmaster got a nice Hex Bomb off. Every single person was hexed, and you all went down. Hexmasters working alone or with the wrong Coven are generally very, very useless. Normally, with this role, you want your Coven leader to survive for as long as possible, so you can silently hex people. After your Coven leader is dead, the Hexmaster is the role which will be getting the Necronomicon next, which means you will no longer be silently killing people, you'll be killing them outright, so people will be aware of your existence and they'll be hunting for you. It probably just goes into C tier because it depends on who's on the role list. You don't have nighttime immunity. You got a full Coven team, you go up a little bit. You got a bad Coven team. If you're solo, you know, you're just F. So it really depends on who you're surrounded by. So we'll just leave it in C tier, average. So up next on the list, we've got the Hypnotist. Now, the Hypnotist, not really that useful of a role. I wouldn't say it's as garbage as Framer and Disguiser. You know, it does have its little bonuses. You can claim Transporter and then coordinate with your Marth to pretend that you're a trans. And normally when that happens, you will not be lynched because Transporters are normally very solid claims who people do generally leave alone. You can pretend to rollblock people, but it is pretty risky if the person's ability still goes off. it will be confirmed that there's a hypno in the game. Sometimes you can even pull off, being Doc because you healed someone, and really it was all just hypnotism. The problem with hypnotist is that generally people will figure out that there is a hypno in the game. Normally they'll figure it out, especially if there's a spy, and once they know that, they're going to be skeptical of everything. You don't have nighttime immunity, you don't gather information. Your role is essentially about deceiving the town, manipulating them, which we spoke earlier on is not that important for Coven or any, because generally people are lynch happy anyway. You don't really have to manipulate them to do that. They will sort of do it with a light nudge on their own. So probably an E tier. So up next on the list, we've got investigator. Now, investigator is nowhere near as strong as consig because you don't get that person's role directly. You only get, a bunch of roles that they could be, and you do get targeted a lot if you're invest by pretty much every faction in the game because they're all scared of you. Mafia don't want to be checked, neutrals don't want to be checked, Coven don't want to be checked, vampires don't want to be checked. If you do survive, you will be pretty effective, but even then, town seems to not even trust you. They might accuse you of being a potion master or a consig. If you do come out and start posting your will, yes, you will have valuable info, but I don't think you will survive very long unless you get some town protects on you. Probably goes into like C tier because it is just an average role. If there's not a lot of townies on the role list, then, you're kind of screwed. If there are a decent amount of townies on the list, you'll do well, you'll help them out. If you're coupled with a jailor, a mayor, vigilante, you'll be solid. Also keep in mind that your information will be helping evils as well. If there's a lot of evils in the game, they'll be using your will to pretty much make their next moves. So, probably like a high D or C tier. Again, it really does depend on who's actually on the role list. So up next on the list, we've got jailor. Now, jailor, very powerful role. Everyone's afraid of the jailor normally. You get 3 executes. You can pretty much execute everyone except for the pestilence. The only people who can really stop you are the coven leaders and the consorts and maybe the escorts if they're, they role block you for whatever reason. But generally, if you play a silent game as jailor, you execute a few people off, and then you claim jailor to the town, you realize that, there's a decent amount of people you can trust, you'll probably win the game. Jailor does have a role blocking ability. Whoever you jail can't use anything. So, let's say you execute 3 Marth, and then you find the 4th one, and you keep him jailed forever, and then you lynch him the next day. You can honestly have a very solid game. Jailor is one of the roles where you can potentially lie to town as well. You can claim survivor or something else, and just go off and start jailing and Xing people. If you do get even 1 town protect on you, you're going to be a serious force to be reckoned with. And normally, if, on a role list, there's going to be at least 1 town protect, and if you find that person, and you say, I'm jailor, be on me, you'll be a great combo. I would say overall, probably an A tier, probably even an S tier, because you do have a solid impact on the game. I wouldn't say S+, because you don't have the survivability, but if there is a lot of town protects in that game, let's say there's 2 or 3 of them, you'll be S+ for sure, because you'll likely carry that. If it's a role list where there's like, 10 evils and the other 5 are town, then yeah, you're gonna be pretty shit. But always bear in mind that evils can kill each other. So if you do slip through the cracks, you can sneak through and win. So I would say, S and S+, depending on the amount of town protects who are in that game. So up next on the list, we've got janitor, which honestly is a decent role in Coven or any. Reason being is because you counter necromancers, you counter retributionists, and you also counter amnesiacs who will be remembering non-mafia roles. You get to clean 3 roles off of the graveyard, you get to know exactly what that person's role is, you get their will, you get everything. No greater feeling than cleaning a jailor on night 1 or night 2, and then stealing their will and claiming to be the jailor and having every single person's trust. If you have a full mafia squad, and one of them's a janitor, you're going to be looking pretty good, you're going to be feeling pretty great. Again, you don't really gather that much information other than who you've killed, but you will be hiding a lot of information from town, you will be hard countering a few roles in the game, and honestly, I would say it's just pretty fun. It's a solid role. The more I think about it in terms of game impact, it probably does belong behind Forger, because Forger can always do that little thing where they forge someone as being a vampire, and then every single person in that game thinks there's a vamps, and it throws everyone off. And that is a very big impact, but Janitor really can't do anything like that. So, yeah, it probably does belong behind Forger, since Forger really can, like, confuse the shit out of people with that vampire play. So up next on the list, we've got the Jester. Now, Jester, again, kind of belongs in its own category. This is more so your preference. Now, if we're talking about complete impact on the game, you know, we're looking at it in a vacuum, it probably belongs in, like, S tier. Not S+, because once you're dead, your influence is essentially gone. If you do get your Jester win in the early game, you're not going to have that much impact. People, you know, they might give you a clap like, hey, well done, Jest, and then you'll kill one person and then they'll forget about it. In the late game, you can turn everything on its head. Overall, a very fun role. The hardest part about Jest is that you are very prone to dying anytime, like during night. If you speak too much, you might die. If you don't speak enough, you might die. If you claim the wrong thing, you might die. So that's the main challenge of Jest. It has to fall below Executioner in terms of ranking, because Executioner can turn into Jest if their target dies, and Executioner is immune, and your role is to still get someone eliminated from the game, similarly to the Jester, but difference is it is a confirmed townie. Roles that require different win conditions to, you know, the primary roles in the game, things like Executioner, things like Guardian Angel, things like Jester, there, you know, it does fall more onto preference. So I would say S tier. If we're talking about in terms of fun, for me, it's S+, probably my favorite role in the game. But we gotta be honest, a Jester does not have as much influence as a jailor, not as much as a coven leader, not as much as an arsonist. Even a Guardian Angel is probably going to be more effective than a Jester in a game, in terms of impact. Arguably, even an amnesiac could have more power, but everyone loves a great Jester play, and, you know, you'll get the biggest reactions out of a Jest. Now, Juggernaut, honestly, this role makes me cry. It really does. And the reason being is because I still say that it is the rarest role in Town of Salem. And the reason why I say that is because it is the only role that you cannot put into a custom role list. In a custom role list, you can put anything you want, so you cannot put Juggernaut, which means getting this role always is up to chance. In order to get scrolls for it, you need to spend real money. You know, you can't spend it through in-game currency, you actually need to spend real dollars on it. In terms of the power level of the role, it really is just a shittier version of werewolf, which really makes me upset to say. It needs buffs. Like, this role is so bad. Every single faction will just be looking for you. Everyone. All the town will look for you, all the Mafia will look for you, all the coven will look for you, the other neutrals will look for you, and they will try to kill you. So you need to have a very solid claim if you plan on attacking, and you'll need to have other survivor claims in the game who you can either work with or throw under the bus. Even survivors don't want to be siding with you when you're Jug for whatever reason. Generally, I play as a silent Juggernaut. I do not attack for the entire game. I just try to survive just through speaking and through manipulating and deceiving. And then at the end of the game, I like to come out and do the final blow and hopefully get a nice win that way. You know, it probably goes into B tier. It is stronger than all of these roles, but, you know, that's basically it, you know. If we're being honest, that's basically it. Amnesiac even has more of an impact than a Juggernaut because, again, you can choose to join a faction, you can choose your own destiny, and you might have a decent influence, but as a Jug, you're going to be killing people one at a time, and then you'll get your rampaging ability, and then you'll kill more than one. Escorts can very easily counter you. Consorts can counter you. Transporters can counter you. You're not going to be having a fun time as Juggernaut. Let me tell you that. Blank Media, for the love of God, please buff this damn role. It needs some serious love. So up next on the list, we've got Lookout. Lookout, honestly, it probably belongs in D or E tier, maybe even C tier, depending on the roles in the game. Essentially, you get to go on someone, you get to see everyone who visits them. Sometimes you can have a very great game where every single person you go on, you will see exactly who attacked them, you'll get confirmed, you'll get town protects on you, you'll start lynching people left, right, and center, leading the whole town to victory. And other times you're going to be going on people and just not seeing very much. If it's a passive game and the Mafia are kind of picking their targets at random, you're not going to be having a lot of luck. If there is a role that is more powerful than yourself, for example, a jailor, or a mayor, a vigilante, or maybe another town protect who's confirmed, who you can chain up with, you could be decently effective. If you're on a roll list with majority evils, good luck, buddy. You might as well leave because you're not going to be having a very fun time. So probably C tier. It just depends on who's on the roll list. You probably will be more effective and impactful than an invest, but that is if you're successful. Investigators will guaranteed get information every single night. Lookouts, sometimes you'll just miss out and you'll go on someone, no one visited them. It is still information, but it's nowhere near as valuable as what an investigator might find. So at its peak, lookout, very strong. It rises above invest, but when it's bad, it's bad. When you're not finding info, you're freaking bad. So probably just goes into C tier. So up next on the list, we've got the mafioso. Now, you know, mafioso, the good old role that everyone loves. And, or I should say everyone hates. Everyone hates getting this, and it's the one I seem to get most often. It's just a killing role. That's essentially it, you know. If there's veterans, you're the one who jumps in and finds them. You are the one who will always take the fall for the team. But if there isn't a godfather in the game, you will be the one calling the shots and killing the people during the nighttime, which honestly is very important. In fact, arguably the most important thing. If you have a bad mafioso, you're not going to be having a very fun time. But if you have a good mafioso, you're going to be having a great time. If you're solo, forget it. You probably won't be winning, you know, unless you have a very good game and you're lucky as well. If you have a solid team backing you, you could actually have a decent shot. It does rise above ambusher. Like, you know, if we reassess this, maybe ambusher goes a little lower, because ambusher, you don't get guaranteed kills every single night. Mafioso, you do get the guaranteed attack at least. Ambusher, you don't get a guaranteed attack. You can get outed with ambusher if your name is seen. Mediums can screw you. The other people who see your name can screw you. It is, without a doubt, stronger than ambusher. Probably stronger than consort too, because you do have the killing power. Maybe ambusher just falls below it. Just a C tier, average, standard, average roll. Also, you get hard counted by escort. So, yeah, you are very scared of everything in the game. So, up next on the list, we have the mayor. Now, who's kidding who? The mayor, without a doubt, will always have a big impact and influence on the game. Mayor games are always different to non-mayor games. You can, as soon as a mayor reveals, you can feel the difference. If you look back on all your Town of Salem games and you think back to the ones with mayors in them and the ones without any mayors in them, for better or worse, it will have a different feeling than non-mayor games. So, whether you play a surprise mayor who comes out right at the end and clutches out, or whether you come out in the middle of the game or the beginning of the game, you will be having a permanent impact until you're dead. Town protects will generally be going on you. If there are town protects and you can coordinate with people, you're going to be having a very solid game, especially if you're lynching the correct targets. If, on the other hand, there's not a lot of townies on the roll list, you're going to be screwed. There is no greater feeling in the world than coming out as a mayor and, you know, clutching that 1v1 right at the end with your fake survivor claim. It honestly is a work of art. I would say probably goes into S tier in terms of influence. If a mayor stays alive and has protection, you're going to be a force to be reckoned with. That threat alone just gives it S. It just has to be. Not as strong as jailor, but daytime, you're going to be having all the power. Pretty much every single person you vote, everyone's going to be following you. So up next on the list, we've got the medium. Not a very impactful role. If there's two mediums in the game, you can coordinate with other people who are dead, but the problem with Coven or any is that most of the time, people, once they die, they will leave. If, however, they don't leave, you can get some valuable info. If there's a janitor, you do counter them because you can get people's roles. If there's a forger, you can even counter that, although you cannot, you know, necessarily trust the person who's dead because they could just be making it up. And you could be getting leads from investigators and sheriffs who've checked people and they didn't get to deliver that information. The problem with medium is that, firstly, no one really believes your claim unless you claim it on day one. That's pretty much why in every single medium game, I'll always say day one medium. If people are actually sticking around and you've got other mediums to support you, you're going to be able to confirm them and get other people lynched. In terms of nighttime impact, you've got nothing. I find that evils will mostly leave you alone because they go, it's just a medium, let's look for someone more important like an invest. So you will be surviving more often, probably E tier and nothing higher than that. It doesn't go into F tier, these roles are just very, very, very bad. So up next on the list, we've got Medusa. Now, Medusa is honestly a very solid role. Reason why I say that, and it probably belongs in A tier, is because you can kill 3 to 4 people in a game if you're playing it correctly. If you're being active, but not necessarily baiting, generally people are going to be walking into you, they're going to be checking you, they're going to be tracking you, they might even be trying to protect you. As long as you survive and don't get attacked, which is arguably difficult, you'll be getting a lot of kills and you could be carrying the game for coven. If you're solo, you're pretty much forced into never gazing and never using your alerts, coming out at the very end and getting that final kill off. But if you have a solid team, you know, you got coven leader, you got hex master, you got potion master, you're going to be doing very great. And you can win games very, very quickly. People don't always expect it. You do counter retributionists, you do counter amnesiacs, probably A tier. Does not go any higher than, you know, it's better than hex master for sure. It's not as good as coven leader. It doesn't go into S tier because you don't really have the ability to gather any information and you are prone to dying. Once you're out of gazes, you're useless unless you're the final person left. But if you're the final person left, chances are you probably won't win the game because you're going to be up against something more powerful than you. Maybe you can draw, but that's only if it's a 1v1, which that alone is a very rare scenario. So I would say A tier, relatively impactful. We all know that Medusa games generally feel different than non-Medusa ones. So up next on the list, we've got the Necromancer. Now, Necromancer can be a decent role, maybe C or B tier. The problem with Necro is that it really does depend heavily on the graveyard. Sometimes you got some very solid roles in there. You got vigilantes, you got werewolves, you got, you know, all this other crap in there. Other times you got transporters, you've got mayors, you've got mediums, you got things that you cannot use. In which case you're crying if you're a Necromancer. At its peak, the graveyard has a lot of town protects in it. You know, you got bodyguards, you got crusaders. You're using all those roles to protect all your coven members. You're clutching it out. You're killing mafs, you're killing townies, just stopping people left, right, and center. You're going to be very, very impactful, but those role lists are very, very rare. You are also prone to dying. Main difference between retributionist and necromancer, other than the fact that retributionists can only use townies, necromancers cannot protect themselves, so there are times where you know you're going to be attacked, you want to stop yourself from being attacked, but you just cannot use a town protect on yourself. Probably belongs in C tier. Again, like, we got a lot of C tier roles here. You got a bit of killing power, but you are heavily reliant on the graveyard. Are you stronger than the Hexmaster? Probably not. Which game scares you more? A Hexmaster game? Oh shit, it's a freaking Hexmaster. There could be a Hex Bomb. Find him, kill him. Or is it, oh shit, it's a Necromancer game. Stop the Necromancer. You know what I mean? People are a lot more afraid of a Hexmaster than they are just a lowly Necromancer. So up next on the list, we've got the Pirate. Now, honestly, Pirates do have a decent impact on the game. Probably belongs in A tier in terms of how much influence they have. They get to rollblock someone every single night, duel them. It doesn't matter whether or not they survive if they win. A lot of the times people will be trying to work with them, trying to side with the pirate. However, not always the case. A lot of the times people do hunt pirates and they just try to get them killed. Vigilantes will not hesitate to shoot them in order to confirm themselves, or if they're just bored and they want them out of there. Jailors might execute you. Mafia might target you in retaliation if you went for one of their members. Coven might do the same. Even vamps might do the same. The only people who shouldn't be going for you are neutrals, but sometimes you could get unlucky. You go after a serial killer, you lose the duel, and then you just automatically die. Werewolves, whether you win or lose, will kill you. And arsonists, you could always just get yourself doused. You never know. If you do play the game, you know, smartly and safely as pirate, you're going to have everyone begging you, pirate, please side me, please. And they won't even be touching you because they need you. They need you to win. Pirate shines the most towards the end game, where everyone doesn't really have the numbers to outright win, and you are the deciding factor. if you've already won the game, you can do whatever the hell you want. If you still need to win the game, you can buy yourself some time by just going after the killing rolls and preventing them from doing anything. Relatively decent role. Again, it's kind of like, Executioner, Guardian Angel, Jester, where you play your own game. You're not really just trying to survive till the very end, so survival isn't as important for you. You don't really get lynched. Your main threat is just you randomly die at night. But if you do form those alliances, you'll be looking pretty good. Probably A tier. So up next on the list, we've got the Plaguebearer. Now, like Plaguebearer is half a role, so we'll just put it in F tier. It really shouldn't even be here. Like, we could just leave it. We could just, throw it right here. So up next on the list, we've got the Plaguebearer / pestilence. Now, this role is definitely a force to be reckoned with. You start off the game as a Plaguebearer, you spread the infection, and once you've spread the infection to everyone, you become an absolute god. Now, the main concern is once you get there, everyone does get the notification that the pestilence has emerged, and they all try to find you. You know how earlier we were saying people just go for the juggernaut as soon as they know it's a juggernaut? With pestilence, that factor is like triple. Because you are super, super powerful during the nighttime. You cannot die to anything. You are completely invincible at night. And the only thing that can kill you is getting lynched. During the nighttime, everyone will be staying home. And during the daytime, everyone will be looking for you. In terms of impact and influence, it's going to be, A tier without a doubt. Reason why I say that is because first half of the game, you won't be doing anything. And if you don't get a solid claim in, you will be getting lynched as soon as you come out. However, if you do have a solid claim, you do survive, you're going to win. You will just win the game. Belongs in A tier. Pestilence games feel very different to non-pestilence games. Blackmailers, consigs, and godfathers, mayors will be having more of an impact throughout the game. So we can't really say that pestilence is higher than those, but it is a very solid, powerful role, which, if is allowed to survive or does sneak through, will just instantly win. So up next on the list, we've got the Poisoner. Just a sad role, just a pitiful shit role. The problem with this is that if there's a doctor in the game, you do get hard counted. Most games will have at least one doctor in them. It feels like every time I get Poisoner, there's a doc out there. If you go around poisoning people and you don't have the Necronomicon, those people will be getting healed and you will be effectively useless. When you do have the Necronomicon, you can poison people and they can't be cured, but comparing the Necro ability on Poisoner compared to, things like Necromancer, Hexmaster, Coven Leader, Medusa, it's nowhere near as powerful. It's by far the weakest one. It's essentially a slower version of Mafioso, and Mafioso is already pretty shit. In terms of ranking, probably in D tier. Is it stronger than Escort? Honestly, I don't know. It's close. I think it's stronger than Medium. I think it's stronger than Hypnotist because it does have killing power after all. But, escorts, if there's a good escort in the game and they're role blocking people left, right, and center and they're stopping mafiosos from killing, to me, in a game, that's more impactful than just a random poison just running around poisoning people who will probably be found and then promptly killed. So up next on the list, we've got the Potion Master. The Potion Master, arguably the second or third strongest role in Coven, either in front of Medusa or behind it. If a Medusa gets 3 to 4 kills in a game, I would say it's stronger than PM, but if a Medusa doesn't get that many kills, then PM's probably stronger. You get to heal your Coven members, you get to attack people, you get to investigate people. If you get the Necronomicon, you don't have to wait for your potions to recharge, you can use them whenever you want. It's a very flexible role, you're a jack of all trades. Killing, healing, investigating, what's not to like about this? The only problem is you cannot heal yourself and you are not immune, so you can very easily die. I would say probably belongs in A tier. Having a Potion Master in the game is normally a very big buff for Coven. If you've got a 4 Coven game, you got Coven Leader, you got Medusa, you got Hexmaster, and you're the Potion Master, you're going to be very, very impactful. The heals are going to be very great, and the killing, think about it. Coven Leader gets the kill, you got a Hexmaster hexing, you got a Medusa gazing, and you got the Potion Master killing. Like, it's going to be very, very solid. Is it stronger than a Juggernaut if you have a team? I would say yes, you are. If you don't have a team, even then you might be stronger. You could claim Doctor, sneak through, you could heal a couple townies, be like, hey, I'm Doc, we're chaining. You could get a Town Protect chain and then kill that person right at the end. So up next on the list, we've got the psychic. Now, psychic, if we're looking at the role in a vacuum, very, very powerful. And it's because you come out with an evil will every second night, and someone on that list is guaranteed to be evil. So generally, if you get people following you, you get town protects on you, and people start voting up every single person on that list, you will be carrying. You'll be finding every single hidden evil. In fact, you know, on other role lists, psychic is completely broken because there really is no escape. It doesn't matter how good of a liar you are. If there's a confirmed psychic in that role list, and there are other confirmed roles who are in that evil will, you will be found, you will be killed, and there is absolutely no escape. Can be very oppressive. The good thing about Coven or any is that people don't always believe in the psychic. It's not like you just get everyone's trust instantly. Sometimes there's not going to be a lot of townies in the game to back you up and to vote off the people who you've found. Nighttime, you've got pretty much no influence. You can get killed by pretty much anything. However, if you have a game where you survive and you're confirmed and you find evils from night 2 all the way till the very end, you'll just be carrying and they will not be able to stop you. It's honestly very sad, especially if, you know, if had you not existed, a juggernaut would be winning or an arsonist would be winning and you just find them and they might have even had a very solid claim. Could have evils, you know, coordinating, claiming transporter, and you've just ruined the whole thing. You could even be having more impact than a crusader, if we're being honest, but crusader does get to kill people during nighttime and protect. Maybe psychic belongs right behind it. I would say B tier, and yeah, above average, above average. So up next on the list, we've got retributionist. Now, retributionist by many is labeled as a worse necromancer, and I would say there is a lot of truth to that. You can only control townies in the graveyard, and in Coven or any, a lot of the times, there's going to be mediums, there's going to be transporters, there's going to be mayors dead. You cannot use those roles. It's very sad, but you just can't. And the only plus of retributionist over a necromancer is that if there's a town protect, you can use that town protect on yourself. But other than that, you're pretty shit, you know. You're pretty crap. Sometimes you can clutch it out. Like, retributionist does have that clutch factor where there's a town protect who's dead and there's a jailer out there, and you know that jailer's getting targeted because the evils are getting all cocky, like, haha, you know, the jailer's got no protection. And then you put that bodyguard on them and you get that clutch protection. Very niche scenario. You're not going to be getting it very often. Overall, you're going to be having less of an impact than escort, than poisoner. Even the retributionist claim alone, retri is a unique role, and if you're claiming it, if you get voted up and you're claiming it, even if you don't get voted up and you claim it, if someone counterclaims you, which they probably will, because it's very easy to get somebody lynched that way, you're going to be voted up, you're going to be lynched, and it's going to be over. So I would say, in terms of impact, you're probably sitting in, you know, low D tier or high E tier. So up next on the list, we've got the serial killer. Serial killer, just a solid killing role with nighttime immunity. You know, we could put it next to Godfather, but honestly, I don't think it belongs there, because Godfather does generally have a team around it, and serial killers will, for the most part, be working alone. You're going to be needing to bargain with survivor claims, asking them for help. Sometimes you might have a second or third serial killer in the game who you can work with, but you got to find them, and if we're being honest, those scenarios are pretty rare. Generally, it's going to be a one serial killer game, and you're immune. If you get attacked, they're going to figure out that there's something wrong with you. They're going to come after you. Mafia will put into the death note that you're immune. Coven will be putting it in there. Spies will be seeing you as immune. Is it stronger than Juggernaut? I would say it probably is. Reason being is because you get to kill more often than the Juggernaut in general. You don't have that mystique factor about you, so people won't be rushing you as aggressively, you know, as a Juggernaut. Sometimes there could be a second serial killer in the game who you can work with. You know, Juggernauts can't even really do that. You know, people are terrified of arsonists, but they're not very afraid of serial killers, honestly. Pirates probably have more of an influence on the game. Medusas, without a doubt. Pestilences, way more. Potion masters, I would say definitely. Maybe serial killers just, you know, below psychic. You do get the killing power though. So I would say above janitor and forger. So up next on the list, we've got the sheriff. Now, the good thing about sheriff is, you find someone and you will directly know suspicious or innocent. There's no in between. And most of the time, the information you get is going to be true. The only time it's not going to work out for you is if that person's been framed or hexed. But normally, the person that you find suspicious will be getting lynched, or they'll be lynching you and then lynching that person afterwards. The main drawback is if you're not finding anyone suspicious, you're going to be very useless and no one's going to believe you, so you're not going to be as confirmed as an invest. I would say if you're finding suspicious people as a sheriff, you are higher than invest for sure. You probably, you'll be here, you'll be the highest of the bunch. Are you stronger than Hexmaster? Probably not. Because Hexmasters could actually counter you. Doctors will be still more effective than you because making people survive is more important than just outright finding them, I would argue. If you're finding people suspicious, you're stronger than invest. If you're not finding people suspicious, you're gonna fall very, very low, like very, very low because, hey, a sheriff who's not finding anyone is not really trustable. So up next on the list, we have the spy. Now, spy is arguably stronger than psychic. It really depends. I would say spy games in general are more valuable than psychic games because psychics are normally harder to trust. They do get the guaranteed evil on the list, which is great, but you do have the goodwill, and I don't find that anywhere near as useful. Sometimes it comes in clutch, but other times not really. Spies, on the other hand, you get to see everyone who was visited by Coven, you get to see everyone who was visited by Mafia, and if you put all those visits down every single night, you'll be pretty much finding the evils straight away. Unless, of course, you got Coven leaders and transporters and disguisers mucking you about, but if they don't, you're going to be a force to be reckoned with. The longer the spy stays alive, the more of an impact they're going to have on the game, and that's generally why spies are always getting killed on night 2, pretty much to the point where, as veteran, I fake claim spy, and I got evils coming after me. Also, every single immune role in the game is going to be very scared of you, because if Mafia hit them, the spy's going to come out and they're going to see what the Mafia did, and you're probably going to get lynched for that. So, I would say in general, I would prefer that there's a spy in my game than a psychic in my game. But again, it does depend. We're talking about impact. A spy game feels very different to a non-spy game. So, it's just a very solid role. So, up next on the list, we've got Survivor. Now, Survivor is, kind of a troll role. You're just trying to survive, and you're trying to do that by any means necessary. You're just trying to get to the end of the game without dying. If you claim Survivor on day 1, there's a very big chance that you get lynched. You need to beg people to investigate you and check you and track you. If they do that and you get yourself confirmed, they're going to leave you alone, hopefully. Sometimes I do see werewolves and juggernauts go for Survivor claims for no reason. If, on the other hand, you do not claim Survivor and you opt to claim something else, maybe, you kind of just wait and you try to see which faction is dominating. If you see that Mafia are winning, you claim something like, I don't know, Executioner, and then you try to get a townie lynched and you go, yay, I won, and you hope you live. If you see that town's winning, maybe you can claim a town role, try to confirm yourself that way, and just live till the very end. There are fun ways you can play Survivor. In terms of raw impact, you're not going to be having that much influence. However, it cannot be understated the king-making power of serves. Towards the end of the game, you're going to have evils begging you for help. You're going to be having pestilences, juggernauts, serial killers, mafia, just everyone begging you, Survivor, please, just give me the win. And that alone is an impact. That alone is very powerful. So, if you do manage to get yourself into that position, you're going to be, I would say probably a B tier because you get to quite literally impact which faction wins the game. But if you're not in that scenario, you're going to be very, very low. I would say E tier if you don't have a good game. I would say if you have a game where you get to the end and you get to choose the winning faction, just straight up B tier. Reason why it's B tier is because you have to get there, and getting there is the difficult part. So up next on the list, we've got Tracker. Now, honestly, I prefer Tracker over Lookout. Lookout, you sit at someone's house, you try to see who visits. Tracker, you track someone, see where they visit. A lot of the times, you go after someone who's not speaking, maybe whispering someone, maybe not voting, maybe voting certain people but not others, and lo and behold, you find a direct killer. Trackers are normally believed in Coven or any. They believe it a lot more than sheriff. If you say, you know, hey, I saw 2 go to 12 and 12 is dead, most of the times they will be following you straight away. You won't be called an executioner as much just because it's less common for an executioner to make this type of play. Generally, executioners are associated with sheriffs. Is it stronger than a psychic or a spy in terms of influence? Probably not. You know, spy games actually feel very different. Tracker games don't really feel different than a standard game. I would say probably, you know, it could be stronger than invest, depending, or it might be weaker. I would say probably goes above lookout, but again, sometimes there are games where you're a lookout and you're going in a confirmed town protect or a mayor or a jailer. You're just going to have more of an impact. So it really does depend on the role list and what's going on in the game. So up next on the list, we've got transporter. Now, transporter, I would say, is an underrated role. You can be very, very chaotic and ruin everything. You know, a bad transporter ruins absolutely everything, but a great transporter carries absolutely everything. You do have that clutch factor. You do have the ability to solo carry a game from start to finish. Your main counters are going to be immune rolls, so arsonists are going to be very strong against you. But if you do manage to survive those and you play your role to its fullest capability, just think about it on paper. You get self-confirmation because generally everyone believes a transporter claim. It's not that hard to confirm yourself. You get self-protection. If you feel like you're going to be attacked, you can transport yourself away. You have killing power because if you can anticipate who the evils will be attacking, you can swap them over, make them attack each other. The only time you can get screwed over is if you don't have a communicative town. So you could have vigilantes who accidentally shoot you, or you get someone moved into a vigilante because the vigilante didn't yell out or whisper that they're taking a shot. You could just transport a silent veteran and die. You could transport a Medusa and die. But if you avoid all that, I would say you're arguably just S+, just straight up. You can be more impactful than a jailer. You can be more impactful than a mayor. Mayors can only do things during the day, but transporters can do things during the day and night. Honestly, S+, because play to its maximum capabilities, you would just be a force to be reckoned with. So up next on the list, we've got Trapper. Now, Trapper, if we're being honest, you know, it's not as good as Crusader. Is it better than Doc? Probably not. Probably not, because you need to spend one night building your trap. If your trap gets triggered, you need to spend another night building your trap, and you're just hoping to get a kill. A lot of the times your trap's going to be getting triggered. It's a very slow roll. You do get information off of certain things like, hey, my trap was triggered by so-and-so, and then you get to confirm a roll 100%. But if you compare it to a doctor, I mean, which one's better? Healing someone every single night, or you just trap someone, you get a bit of info, and then, you know, you have to spend time building your trap again, and then maybe you die before you can rebuild it, before you can place it. You kind of get screwed over. Sometimes you don't have anyone solid to trap, and then you kind of don't know what to do. One good thing about Trapper is that even if you die, your trap will still remain until it gets triggered, so you will have influence even after you're dead. In general, I would say Trapper games are not very impactful. If we're talking about the claim itself, it's not a very solid claim. Everyone can claim Trapper, you know, Trapper, night 1, building, night 2, placed. No, anyone can do that. Probably belongs in D tier. Is it stronger than Poisoner? Yes, if you do get a kill. If your trap gets triggered, sometimes you can have an impact, but sometimes you get useless info. You know, oh, I got triggered by Sheriff, and you already knew there was a confirmed Sheriff in the game. Escorts probably have more of an influence than you. Again, it's arguable, so probably just D tier. It's better than Bodyguard. Wouldn't say it's better than Doc. So up next on the list, we've got the Vampire Hunter. Now, for the Vampire Hunter to be effective, there needs to be vampires in the game, and there are going to be vampires in the game. Generally, evils should be leaving you alone because they want the vampires to be dealt with as well. It benefits them, so you should be left. Once you start staking vampires, you will be confirmed instantly. Once all vampires are dead, you will become a vigilante with a single bullet. So it probably belongs in B tier, Because again, Vampire Hunter games are automatically vamp games, so the whole feel of the game will be different automatically. And then similarly, vampires probably belong in B tier as well. Vampire games feel very different to non-vampire games. You know, even arguably you can put it in A tier in terms of just the feel of the game. If there's a lot of townies and they're being converted and vamps get a stealth takeover, that is very impactful. There's nothing worse than being a mafia or a coven and you feel like you've secured the victory, or you know, your town, you've secured the victory, you think it's all over, but then vampires will just come out of nowhere and start swarming you. Like, I would say wherever vampires go, probably the Vampire Hunter goes as well. Like, they just have to be together because they come as a duo. So up next on the list, we've got a veteran. Very impactful role, very powerful role. You get 3 alerts, you can do vet baits, you can get people to walk into you. For the most part, you're going to be getting instant confirmation. Sometimes people can steal your claim, but generally I don't see it happen that often. Veterans have the ability to kill off, you know, multiple people in the game. You can kill 4 people, you can kill 5 people. The problem with veteran is that once evils know who you are, they will never go for you again unless they try to chance it, which could happen sometimes. And then you'll end up, you know, probably having no alerts, or you'll have alerts, but it won't even matter in the end because they gained majority through just getting other people killed and leaving you alone. Vampires won't be biting you, so you can kiss that type of victory away. You need to beg for it. Sometimes you'll just kill a townie night 1 and they just know it's you and then it's over. You're always going to be stronger than Medusa, I would say. Do veterans have more of an impact than pirates, pestilences, vampires, potion masters, amnesiacs? It's arguable. If you get 3 to 4 kills, then yes, you're going to be better than all of them. So up next on the list, we've got Vigilante. Now, Vigilante is, in Coven or any, not the strongest of roles. And the reason being is because there's a lot of immunes out there sometimes. You might have, you know, 2 arsonists, a werewolf, a godfather, a coven leader who might find you and control you, and also has immunity. You could have consorts on you and other things like that. But there are times where there's not a lot of immunes. There could just be, you know, mafiosos, blackmailers, consigs, and you're just shooting them one by one. You get jesters out of there. You can get pirates out of there if they're being annoying. You can get vamps out of there. If you shoot someone who's immune, for the most part, town probably won't believe you unless you are 100% confirmed. The way I generally like to play Vigilante is I just play it silently and just shoot someone every single night until I just assassinate every single evil that I can with all my bullets. If you do hit immunes constantly, you're not going to be having a good time. However, if you do play Vigilante solidly and you shoot an evil every single night, you're going to be having a decent impact. I would say it probably goes into A tier. Even if you die, you can have a retributionist who uses your corpse, so your death could even have merits to it. So up next on the list, we've got the werewolf. Now, as I said earlier, werewolf is just a better version of juggernaut. It's just better. I would say definitely A tier. Werewolves are the reason why night 2 is the scariest night in town of Salem. It's always scary to leave your house on night 2 because there's a chance you just get werewolves. Stronger than pestilence because you got the early game threat. Stronger than werewolf because you can, again, brute force kill and rampage people. Probably even stronger than a potion master. Probably even stronger than a vigi. And I guess, again, it's arguable whether it belongs in front of Medusa or not. Again, amnesiac, guardian angel, jester, they all have an asterisk next to them because they're playing their own game, so kind of ignore this. Just, we could even put, like, Amni right here. We could put these right here because, again, they're playing their own game. They're doing their own thing. Even Survivor kind of is playing their own thing. Werewolf games do feel different than non-werewolf games. You're going to have people hunting you. You're going to have people hunting you on day 2. You're going to have people hunting you on day 4. You know, arsonists generally are not afraid of anything, but even they get afraid of you. The only problem with werewolf is it's not that hard to really find them. You can't really play silently and stay home like a juggernaut or a serial killer because you do rampage in your own home. And if someone happens to visit you and they put into the will that they visited you, people start to figure out that it's you. Rampaging in this game is very underrated. If you get like 3 kills in a night, you're going to be looking pretty good. And the only thing that's really going to counter you is the coven leader. If they find you, then yeah, good luck. You're in big trouble. So up next on the list, we've got Witch. Now, witch actually doesn't even belong in coven or any, but we could rate it for all any, which isn't that different of a role list. The only thing that's missing is that the coven roles are gone, and that's basically it. Witch is actually a very powerful role. Pretty much S+, I would say. You get nighttime immunity. Unlike the coven leader, if you control an evil and you find them, you can say, hey, I'm the witch, I'll side you. And you're probably going to win because they got no reason to go after you. You have a very big impact through controlling people, finding their roles. There could be more than one witch in a game who you can work with. Your number one threat is going to be an arsonist, because if you do control them, you're going to be doused, and then you're essentially forced to stop them from ever igniting because they're going to take you down. Now, again, this role is going to have an asterisk next to it because it's not in coven or any, but in all any, without a doubt, S+, it's just a very solid, powerful role, and every single evil faction just wants to work with you because why not? The witch is great. Finally, we do have just the PB. You know, Plaguebearer, it's not even a role, it's half a role. Like, we could just put it here, just F. Doesn't really belong. So I would say this is probably my tier list, but if we're looking at any last second changes, maybe Mayor goes into A tier, maybe it drops, and that is essentially it. So leave a like if you enjoyed this tier list, comment below your own opinions, and subscribe for more. I'll see you all in the next one.